So former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn says he's going to tell his story. He's got a story to tell, but he wants a deal. As for the president, he says, go for it. But is the White House sending mixed messages? Craig Fuller is here. He's the former assistant for Cabinet Affairs for President Reagan and former chief of staff for President George H.W. Bush when he served as vice president. I said, Craig, you need a picture of Reagan behind you like Jeffrey Lord.
You know, I'm really working on trying to stay neutral here, Poppy.
Okay, all right. So with your neutral hat on, let's talk about someone. You worked in the White House. You worked under Bush 41 when he was vice president. We are 71 days in right now. I just want your take overall on the messaging that we're getting from the White House. Sean Spicer taken to the lectern every day and basically saying, I got nothing more for you on this Russia stuff. And then the president encouraging Flynn to tell his story and to get immunity. What do you make of it?
You know, it's just so combative, and it seems to me it's also highly distractive from the work that people want to be done there on health care and trade policy and tax policy, that sort of thing. I think every time they talk about this Russia situation and the investigations, they're digging themselves into a deeper hole. I know it's difficult to leave it alone. I think they ought to take a page out of Director Comey's book and show what it looks like to just say, there's nothing more I have to say on that, and move on. And to actually be engaging in the question of whether or not a witness should have immunity from the Oval Office or wherever the tweet originated is just something we've never seen before. It makes no sense at all.
Then is the president, through tweets like what we just saw this morning about this, making it worse for the White House, making it harder for his staff?
You know, there's every reason for the president and the staff around him to want him to be part of a story. But the story you don't want to be a part of is one in which you're having a former national security advisor investigated. The story you want to be a part of is the work of the administration. And every time there's a tweet, every time there's a messaging along those lines, it simply drags them back into this story. And the notion that you would have members of the White House staff, supposedly based on the reports, having a congressman come down, a chairman come down to provide the information, puts them. There are not plenty of ways. There is a proper way to get information appropriate for an investigation to the Congress. A secret meeting in the old executive office building is not the path.
How, given that you did work in the White House, how rare or unheard of is that? What the New York Times is reporting, what Maggie Haberman and her team broke, that these two White House officials are the ones who called Nunes down to the White House to show him this information. Is that just unprecedented?
Well, not to raise something that was somewhat unpleasant, but I lived through the Iran-Contra issue. We turned over thousands and thousands of documents and had many interviews and conversations, but again, all through a proper channel of document discovery. First of all, whatever you find in one document is perhaps interesting, but it only becomes relevant to an investigation when it's looked at in the context of many other conversations and issues. So just one piece of information is not terribly helpful, and delivering it in this manner gives it perhaps far more credence than it deserves. We just don't know. But my point is, it is unprecedented to be delivering information this way to a chairman of an intelligence committee.
Look, more shakeup inside the president's inner circle. Current until yesterday, now former Deputy Chief of Staff Katie Walsh is leaving the White House. She's going to this outside group, America First. The White House line on this is that it's, quote, air cover, because they saw with the failure of the health care bill, they need help pushing their message and their agenda outside of the White House. She is, former RNC. She's tight with Reince Priebus. How do you read this? Is there more there? Is this about the president's inner circle changing a lot? And what do you think it means for Reince Priebus?
So I don't want to suggest I actually have insight into this particular move. It does make sense for somebody that has a close relationship, professional relationship with the chief of staff to go out and take on something like this. But I think probably there is going to be a broader shaking out in the White House. It occurs in most White Houses. You have a lot of people who are involved in the campaign who've come into the White House, and I think they need more discipline, and that's going to only come as you begin to shake out some of that staff inside the White House.
All right, final thing. I want to get your take on what former Vice President Joe Biden said yesterday. Let's play it.
If you could give President Trump one piece of advice, what would it be?
Grow up. Stop tweeting. No, and start focusing. The words of a president matter. They have enormous reverberating sounds around the world.
You know, he said that the president needs to stop tweeting and grow up. Your take? He's being very vocal.
Well, it is terribly important for the words of a president to matter. He needs to build a majority for his legislative initiatives. People have to be able to trust him. And the sideshow that occurs on occasion with tweets is not helpful to that. I once operated on the premise that every day we'd try to put sort of political capital in the bank for the president, knowing that it was going to have to be spent. President Reagan got a tax bill passed. He got budget bills passed with majorities in a House that was controlled by the other party, by the Democrats. That's only possible if you really build trusting relationships, if you respect both the members of your own party and the opposition party, and that needs to happen if there are going to be any kind of legislative successes down the road in this first year.
Craig Fuller, nice to have you on. I can't wait to see the photo behind you next time we have you on, who you choose. We'll see you again soon.
I'll work on it.
Thank you.